Good evening. Welcome to the 4321 Woodworking Shop. My name is Chris, and tonight we're going to start on some garden planters, some cedar built vegetable garden planters, sort of. They could be for flowers also, just depending on what you want to do. But what I have found is that I sold a bunch of the smaller planters for flowers a few weeks ago as spring just hit. Everybody was doing landscaping. And now I've got people who are looking more to do the vegetable side. So we're going to go ahead and get some started here. We're starting off with their 5/8 inch cedar pickets, 1x6x6. We're going to go ahead and cut 42 of these up for 6 different planters. But you need 6 of them for a planter. So I'm going to get started on that, and we'll keep moving on from there. Okay, we got our 6-footers cut here, a little less than 6 foot. I should mention that. These are 6 foot long fence pickets, but you have this dog ear. So to make it nice and uniform, I basically just cut that off. So they're cut at like 71 inches probably. So an inch shy, but when you add on the ends, it becomes 6 feet wide. So yeah, throw that in the bucket. I've changed my stop block to just shy of 3 feet, so more like 35 inches, because again, we're going to use that 70-foot board, but we want to make, it's going to be 3 foot tall, so we want to make 2 legs per board, put it at 35 inches. If we put it at, an even 36 inches, even 35 and a half works. It's just we got to stay under that 70 to cut that dog ear off again. So go ahead, and I'm going to make those for all 8 planters. Basically, I'm batching out 8. I'm going to show you how to assemble one of them, so you don't have to worry about sitting here for 8 of them. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get that cut now. Moved our stop block to like 23 and a half inches. I know, it seems odd. Why not go 24? Again, that dog ear, lose an inch, so, 23 and a half will get us 3 panels out of it, plus our rail. And the thickness of this board still gets us to 2 feet wide. So we're going to go ahead and cut these down to that size, get enough panels for all of them, and then we can start assembly. Okay, so we got all of our side panels cut, and then some for another planter I'm doing. I did want to touch base. In a previous planter video, I did mention that I was using my table saw to cross cut for precision. What I have found since I've built about, that was my first set of 3, so about 60 planters ago. I did get the radial arm saw dialed in a little better to make straight cuts. I figured out, keep a little pressure on it, it'll do just fine. It doesn't wander anymore. So that's why I'm using this for cross cuts now to build these. I also don't need super precise precision on these. With the stop block there, they go together really well. Again, like I said, I've done almost 60 of them since then of various sizes. So that's been nice, because I can't cross cut a 6 foot wide board. For you may not have a radial arm saw that's, say, 60 years old or 50 years old or something like that. I don't know a lot of people who have those sitting around, but a miter saw would work just fine. I don't have one. It's on my list, but we're gonna see about that, because maybe this will work fine for me and I don't need to invest in another tool like that. Again, I said the table saw, doing a cross cut, even a circular saw and a square, you can make a straight cut right across it and do this. It may be a little harder to do the stop block. You'd have to figure that out, but maybe you'd have to measure them out and cut them. So you can get it done other ways without having a big fancy any tool. Like I said, this one's 50 years old, if not older. I inherited it from my dad, who passed it on when he got a miter saw, so that's what I'm using. Next up on this project would be to get the legs cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that on the table saw. You could use a circular saw for that as well, but you want to get them to 2.5 inches and 2 inches off of this 5.5 inch board. So you're going to have a 1 inch strip left over. The reason being is that way when you put them together, They look the same from both sides. I'll show you that when we get there. There is some middle legs to this planter, and I didn't cut those yet. I should have probably cut those at the 3 foot, but we'll touch base on that a little bit. We might have to switch the block back over and do those. I am going to leave it at that setting right now where it's screwed in. By the way, my stop block is just a 2x4 with a piece of plywood that is flush, so the plywood goes up against the side of my bench here. I clamp the front down and I put a screw on the other side right into the bench. Nothing fancy, no T-track, none of that. Yes, I put some holes in my bench. You know what? I can always pop out that board if it gets too bad and put a new one in there. That's how I designed this tool bench. So it has worked for me so far. I've even got some lines for some standard planters, so I can pop it here and I can batch out those. So again, make do with what you've got. Make it work. You know, I found that clamping this, it was giving a little bit of bumps. So I was like, hey, let's put a screw right in there, and now it's solid as a rock, doesn't move. So yeah, figure out those little things that could help you be faster, be more efficient, and move along in your building. And to get precision, it's nice that all of these are the same width when I go to put them in the planter and glue it up and brad nail it and screw it, because I don't have to worry about it being on a square. That helps keep everything in square. So just wanted to touch on that. I'm gonna go over, I'll show you another trick I've used at the table saw for the next step, and then I'll rip those down. So we're at the table saw, and I should say the reason I didn't cut the middle legs is I don't know how I wanna do it. On the first one I did, I kinda just added them with 2 pieces of scrap wood, glued them together, made a leg. I don't think I'm gonna go with that design again. I think I'm gonna cut out a full leg and then I wanna cut it down to a size, but I don't know what that is. When I get to that point, I will figure that out and we'll get that done. So, and we'll touch base on that. The trick I've got here on this is these little blocks. So this is my 2.5 inch wide block. I basically put it in here, move my fence over, lock it in place. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run all of these boards, all of the leg boards through there and get those 2.5 inch pieces. That's gonna be one side of the leg on the corner. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in, bump her down to 2 inches, and run all of those boards again to get the other side of that leg, leaving me a 1 inch cutoff that I'll, you know, there's some things I can use it for, but you know, some of those I've got so much of it built up and scrap that I'm using it like tonight. It's a little chilly outside, so I put it in the wood burner and I'm heating the shop with it. But again, this has made it efficient that I can switch between these 2 sizes at any time really quickly. If you're wondering about the third one, that one is exactly half the width of one of those boards. For one of my planters, the floorboards are better off at that width. It matches up and fits, so that's what I set it at and use that. So, and I've just kept these here to make it nice and easy and switch between them. I should probably write on marker what these are and know what they are. So, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and run all of these through. I'll show you a first couple here, and then you don't wanna watch me do all of those. So let's get going. Let me get some safety gear on. Always wear your safety gear. In addition to your safety gear, let me touch base on this real quick. Push block. Keep your hands away from these blades. Definitely just push everything on through. So you'll see that as I go here. I put it down there and I push it through. So, and I'm also standing off to the side away from it in case we get a kickback at all. So let's get those going. So there was 3 run through, and that's gonna hit the end of my bench. So this is gonna be a lot of back and forth running. Sometimes I get another person out here to catch those for me and run them. So, but we're gonna stack up the 2.5 inch. We're gonna grab the other side, bring it back here. We'll run it again. A couple other tips just real quick if you need them. I should be using one of my feather boards. I don't know why I'm not. That would be the smarter move on these. Just seems like I have to keep moving then for the 2 inch. I do just put a little bit of side pressure. I could use a push stick or my fingers. I am keeping my fingers away from that blade. I'm not getting it up there and pushing it sideways. I'm doing it back here. If you start getting splinters and things in your fingers, wrap some tape around them. That way you don't want to be wearing gloves. I stay away from gloves on any of my spinning tools, saws, Dremels, drills, just because I don't want to have a glove get caught and pull my hand in. So I have taped the fingers and use that to hold. So I'll get the rest of these cut. I'm not going to keep you on for that. It's going to take a while. So, and then we should be ready to start building. Okay, we're going to start our assembly of this this planter. What I've got here is 4 of the leg pieces and the other 4 sides. So we're going to start by gluing those and brad nailing them. So I have just an 18 gauge brad nailer. I'll put a link up for a review on this particular one. I really enjoy using it. It's been worked out very well. We're just using 1-inch brads on it. We've got our glue brush, some paper towels, all things you're going to want to have nearby. For the larger ones, we're also going to be using some screws. So I'll go over that here. I'll bring you in a little closer so you can watch and see this go. So I almost always start with just a bunch of glue on here. Put it on there, take my snazzy little silicone glue brush and get her coated all along there. So I do get a little squeeze out when I'm doing this, but I don't go insane to where I've got a bunch pouring out. So I just take my clamps off. They were just there to hold it together. By clamping it, that makes it easier to spread on all 4 of those at once. So I'm going to move them up here, put one down here, take our other one, line it up nicely, and flush on both ends. It should be at least. They were cut using the same stop block. And we just put our nails in. Hands, keep them out of the way of that gun. You know, those brads are supposed to go into the side and into the other piece, but they, you know, you never know. Sometimes they may skew one direction or another, and if your fingers are back there, your finger will stop it, just not in a good way. So I'll get the rest of these done up quick. Okay, I will show you that I did have a brad nail pop through. I just take an angle cutters and cut that off. Maybe hammer it in a little bit. It's fixable pretty easily like that. And then I go ahead and I'm going to take, and I usually have a few of these sitting on either end, so we're going to get that, alternate through them as I go. But on the outside of them here, I'm just wiping up this glue squeeze out. Do that now. Set that aside. 2 of these I'm just going to completely set aside for now. So I'm going to basically put them over here out of the way. For this planter, I can only do one side at a time and then we bring it all together. Smaller ones, I have enough assembly room here to do both sides at the same time. Then I keep the legs and do it that way. But okay, got our glue off of there. So we'll go ahead and tip these up. Okay, we have these tipped up. 3 boards across the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is put 3 smaller here to mark it. Bring this one over. And now I know where to put my glue. Grab my brush. So as you can see, we have glue in there. Go ahead and wipe that around. Those are just for marking space, so we'll get those out of there. And start grabbing 3 boards. This does take up my whole bench. Okay, now that we have enough room. Okay, now that I have enough room on the bench here, I know you can't see me, but what I've got is I've got this flush right up here, and I've got it sitting on both ends. And I push this in nice and tight so that it's square. I'm going to put one in the middle. I'm going to find a shorter one. And we don't need it right now for this part, so let's get this going. I'll show you how to do one end. You basically do the same thing to both ends. So I'm taking 3 boards and fitting them in here nice and tight together. And we take our brad nailer, and once we get them in here, get them all pushed together, get the legs square, and we're flush. We're going to go ahead and shoot 5 into each of these, okay? So what I'm doing now is I am putting 2 screws into every one of these boards just to hold a little bit extra. And I've set the drill bit to the countersink so it won't go through. And now we drive them in. These are just a 1-inch screw. These are just a 1-inch screw. My boards are 5/8 inches thick. So 2 of them, you know, you're talking 1 1/4 inches. So I don't go to a 1 1/4 inch screw because I don't want it to come out. So we leaves us a 1/4 inch, you know, error. Leeway. And now we'll do the other side. I laid out a few things here just to show you. So I did put a board on either end because there is going to be, they're going to go like this for the side panels. And I did that because my bottom stretcher, which is just a scrap from when I was cutting down the legs and things. So I have 2 scraps that are perfect for this, but I wanted to be sure I didn't put them into where that board was going to be. So I've got those lined up on the bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to countersink these and glue them on there as well. So I will probably get those, we can glue those now. I am going to put some screws in this also. It's probably overkill with glue, nails, screws, but I don't want that floor going anywhere, so that's why I do it. And like I said, I would rather put a couple extra screws in and know that it's good and solid versus having it fall out later. Middle of these boards was 35 3/16. They were 7 3/8. No, 35 3/8 because they were 7 3/4 wide. So 35 3/8. So I've gone ahead. I've got this other little scrap piece right here in the middle we're going to screw in. I've got our leg for the middle also lined up right there. What we're going to do is we're going to put 4 screws right on through that. I've drilled those down and it should pick up both. These are 1 5/8 inch screws, so we should be fine. Not go all the way through. Little room. Kind of thinking I should have used a longer drill bit. Now that we got the middle piece in, so this is twofold. It hooked our leg on for a middle support. You know, I'm not sure if a middle leg is really necessary, but I do put it there just to make sure. This is 6 feet wide. It's gonna have 16 inches of dirt in it. You know, it just helps reinforce both sides so that this isn't bowing out and that, you know, it doesn't bow down or anything like that. Just trying to make sure everything is all set. I probably should have cut that down a little bit, and I'm probably going to with my Japanese saw. So you may want to also space that up a little bit because that makes your floor line up much easier if you don't have to work around this. But this other purpose for this is that one of these is going to go right in here against that floor, and I'm going to screw it in from this side. And my reason for that is I'm going to do that on both sides, and that will hold the whole thing together. So I'll show you that when we get to that point. So I'm going to go ahead and get that cut down, get my other side built, and then we'll start going from there on what we do next. Okay, we have our second one built up exactly the same as the first one. So now we're going to take some of our 2-foot boards and we're going to go ahead and glue them right along the side here and screw them in. So I've got a stack of them here. I'll show you what we do there. We're just going to go ahead and take these. We basically stand them up, make sure it's flush. I'm going to go ahead and take my brad nailer at this point and nail it in. I'll take the next one, go right next to it. Now that it's on here, I'm going to take my countersink and drill my 6 holes and drive our 6 screws. Okay, I've gone ahead and put some glue on the other panel. I've got this one all screwed in, and this is the easiest way I have found to do this so far is on the bench, take this panel, right up on here, basically just line it up. Make sure everything is snug where it's supposed to be and nail it. Plenty of nails. Let's go do the other side. And that right there. So I'm going to go ahead and drill those holes for the rest of it and get the screws in. And for that middle piece, and then we'll get it outside. We'll get the floor in. And then we'll work on the rails. So got it together, carefully lifted it out here because it's still not fully stable. The floor is going to add a lot of that stability to it. So let's go ahead and put that in. I've got 12 2 foot width links, 5.5 inches wide that are going to go in here. What I can tell you is that I do leave about 1/4 of an inch between every board. Even if you were to line this with, say, plastic, I kind of leave that up to whomever's what they're doing with it, what they want to do. But if you line it with plastic, you should still poke a couple holes where those openings are, just so it doesn't hold all that water it goes down through. If you're doing like fabric, that'll let it through anyways. And I can see already that with my spacing, I am gonna have just a little spot. I don't need a full board. So I have some scraps. I'm gonna see if I can cut one down to that width and put that in here. So about a finger width. I'll show you the rest of this. You don't need to see that, but basically, once they're in here, I just take the nailer and nail them down. Now that the floor is in here, it's much more stable. What I've gone and done is I've cut 2-inch wide pieces that are the same 6 feet long as the sides rails. I ripped those down. And then I've also ran some glue along the top here. So we're gonna go ahead and put those on now. And let me explain. So on this longer one, what we're doing is lining this up with the inside edge of this panel, not the outside edge, which is different than my smaller planters. Usually my smaller planters, it's on the outside. So that's why I'm a little bit, figuring this out here. So I'm going to go ahead and tack this one in on this side. Let it's glued down and tacked in, and we're all set. I will point out that I did 2 of them on the other one this way with the gun turned sideways, and that was a mistake because that lets them go sideways. There's a video that Jonathan Katz-Moses just did on that with a tip on which way to use these so that they, that way that nail, if it goes left or right, that's fine. And then we'll just go ahead and wipe away the glue squeeze out here in a second. Found a tape measure, not the one I was using, but it'll work. So I measure this now because it does change from time to time. So that's 27.5. Measure this side too. 27.5 we can get away with. So I'm gonna go cut a couple of those, rip them down to 2 inches, and we'll go ahead and get them on here. Okay, we've got our glue on there. Go ahead and take our board, line it up on both sides. All there is to it, but that's complete. Thanks for watching. There'll be a playlist of some other planters I've done also that you can take a look at, some different styles. So these have been big sellers for me this spring. I anticipate that'll keep going for a little while yet. And I'm guessing every spring this will come up and be a pretty good seller. So pretty inexpensive. Lumber that isn't through the roof on cost right now, just fence pickets. So go ahead and give it a shot if you want to. Let me know in the comments how it works out for you. So thanks, like, subscribe, have a good day. Hey, welcome to the shop. I wanted to show you something here quick. So what I've got going here is an 8-foot long planter. And as you can see here, we have a seam. So it's a 4-foot board on the left and a 4-foot board on the right, connected at the leg. So I added this piece here and screwed it in on the sides into these boards with 1-inch screws and all the way through all 3 boards with, I believe they're 1 5/8. Yep, 1 5/8 screws. Down here, I made sure this piece crossed over and did the same thing there to that middle leg. And so we have that middle leg. So as you can see by the one down here, you don't see the seam. I am not trying to match up boards or grain or anything. They are 6 separate boards cut down to 4 foot because they're normally 6 feet long. So that would have been near impossible. But I just wanted to show that you can take this up to 8 foot. You do need to add some screws, reinforce it a bit, and probably add a little more wood. But when I took this panel down here, it was as sturdy as any of my other ones. So I will probably add a little bit more cross bracing to this one just to make sure instead of doing one. We'll see. I might do 2, 1 on either side of this, just in the middle, or maybe put one halfway down here and halfway down there. So just wanted to show that.